let's get into our way too early 2025 season predictions. Now, I don't want us to be halfway through the season, both of our predictions or one of our predictions really wrong, and the people come and be like, "Oh my goodness, look at these fools and how wrong they were." We're making this January 5th of 2025. Our rosters aren't finalized. We just saw Florida got a commitment an hour and no, 50 minutes ago. Just 50 minutes ago. So everyone's rosters can still turn a lot. I still haven't even finalized my prediction. There's still 1 or 2 games I'm trying to decide on. But we do have 2 pretty easy games. August 30th against Long Island University, the Sharks. I have the Gators winning. Do we need to say more?
Not so fast, my friend. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I think we're gonna beat Long Island. I mean, Billy's not making it to USF if we do not beat Long Island. So
I don't know. Scott Strickland really likes Billy. But no. So I do like this next game we play, USF.
Yeah.
Alex Golish has built a respectable program. We saw him compete with Bama back-to-back years, or compete with them for at least 3 quarters back-to-back years.
Kind of competed with Miami for like a half too this year.
Yeah, they did compete with Miami. It was like 14-13 with like 5 minutes in the second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So they compete with Miami. So this is a respectable program, respectable team, probably. I think they do return their QB Bynum Brown. So
who is disappointing this year, but still has a lot of potential.
I think he also dealt with injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still gonna take the Gators by a lot.
Oh yeah.
But I do think it's gonna help us. Maybe would you like to see us just completely dominate it, win 50-0, or would you rather see us maybe like a 20-10 type of game in the first half, then we end up winning it like 45-13?
I mean, that's kind of been the MO of the entire Billy Napier tenure in these games, to be perfectly honest with you. So I'd rather see them come out and win 50-0. Like like they've struggled to do that against like, I mean, they'll do it to like FCS teams, but they kind of struggle to do it like again in games like this, I feel like.
Yeah, because I do think it might be good for us to maybe deal with a little bit of adversity. Like it's not like the game's ever in doubt. But it's like, maybe at halftime, it's still only a 2-score game. Maybe they've got a big player or 2 on you. It's like they could come out and hit something. Kind of like how they played Miami, then Miami just dominated them in the second half. Like maybe it's better if we get a little bit of adversity because in the next game at LSU. So we're both having the Gators at 2-0 going Saturday, September 13th. Probably going to be the 3:30 kick on ABC. Because there's also Georgia, Bama. There's another big game. I think it's like a Georgia game on this date, and that I assume it's going to be 3:30, but it always ends up being a night game with LSU. So we will see if anything changes there. I'll let you start out because you are an LSU, worked for LSU, so you may know a bit more.
Yeah, like I'll be honest, like I don't love this where it's at in the year.
Really?
Week 3, like first real test. Yeah, this one I don't get great vibes from this game. I mean, Florida just in general has struggled to win on the road against LSU. Like they just have struggled to win in Baton Rouge.
Everyone has.
Yeah, they have, but I mean, Florida has beaten them. When was the last time Florida beat them? 2016 in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, the goal line stand.
Yeah, so I mean, I think LSU's offense has the potential to be really good next year because I think Garrett Nussmeier is a quarterback with potential. I like the moves they made at receiver this offseason in the portal. They were really aggressive defensively, brought in some guys that I think will improve the defense, which did take some steps forward throughout the season under a first-year defensive coordinator in Blake Baker. I don't necessarily think LSU is going to be a better team than Florida is next year, but I do think LSU is probably going to be the better team in week 3 playing at home. So I have an early setback here.
But don't you also see that LSU does have a lot of new players?
They do.
I mean, they're losing their top 3 offensive linemen. They're bringing in 3 new wide receivers.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick Anderson didn't play at all this season, so who knows if he can step back to what he was as a freshman. And who knows? I mean, if their run game continues to be lackluster, they don't have the same offensive line. I mean, we talked about it a couple weeks ago where you even said that LSU season could really derail. Like they could finish like 7-5, maybe
Mhm.
6-6. Well, they played Clemson week 1. Now, if there's anything we know about Brian Kelly, it's that he loves to lose in week 1.
Yeah.
I mean, go back to when he was at Notre Dame, nearly lost to FSU. He's lost to FSU back-to-back first games at LSU. Lost last year to USC, a not really good USC team either. So they might end up being already 1-1 going into this game. I just think Gladway's too good to lose to a team that I don't think is going to have it still fully put together.
Mhm.
I think because we're going to be returning our offensive line. Our offense should still be in rhythm. Like, obviously, receivers are a bit new, but it is pretty talented enough, and they do have
Was
an
the
against
offense
USF.
in rhythm this year at like down the would you say it was in rhythm down the like
That's a fair point.
know.
Like, probably not. Lagway dealing with the hamstring injury.
Mhm.
I just think Lagway's too good. Like, and if
Yeah.
LSU, especially because LSU just hasn't had a good defense in 7 years.
Yeah.
I mean, 4 or 5 years at this point. So I just don't.
My
think they can
kind
get
of
the stop.
issue, like, what's Billy Napier's biggest road win? Like, what is his best road win?
Billy's biggest road win.
I mean, it's tough to like come up with one.
Let's see. Like last year, the only teams we beat on the road was Mississippi State.
You'd probably have to argue it's like Texas A&M in 2022 or something like that. Like,
yeah, that's probably it.
Which I think, like, I mean, he's struggled in these games, and like again, it's not even that I think LSU is going to be better than Florida. This just looks to me like a game that Florida could very easily lose. Like this is
fair.
like very dangerous in nature. I think it's maybe even more dangerous if LSU loses that opening game because, in spite of his tendency to lose those, they have bounced back pretty well from them. Yeah.
Yep. I just think it's what's going to happen to LSU is what we talked about earlier, that it's kind of end up being kind of derailed. I just don't think their offense. I mean, I think our defensive line is going to be really good, with Sapp likely announcing he's coming back within the next 2 days, and Caleb Banks returning, George Gums, and the linebackers we have on this team. I think the front seven is going to be too much for this new LSU offensive line. And I mean, we got 7 sacks on them last year when they had one of the best offensive lines in the country.
That is a good point. There's going to be a lot of big changes there.
So I just don't trust LSU's defense at all. Don't know how you could.
Yeah.
I mean, when's the last time you could trust their defense? 2018?
I mean, no, you could trust their defense in 2019, I think.
I mean, early on, that LSU defense was like they gave up 30 points plus to Texas. They even gave up like 30 points to Vanderbilt. And
yeah, I mean, they had a lot of NFL players on
their that defense was clutch. But like, if they didn't have their defense made enough plays, but if they didn't have like Joe Burrow, if they didn't have the best offense maybe in history, then it wouldn't. Then the defense would probably be looked down on. And it did get better at the end of the year. It's like they were also missing like a defensive lineman who's not coming to my head right now, like Doomerville or something like that, Marcus Doomerville or something.
Yeah,
it may have been something like that. So it did get better, but there was a lot of struggles there. It was kind of like the start of that downturn for LSU. Like, we also maybe saw a little bit for us, but we had a lot of explosive players on defense as well. So I'm going to take the Gators to win this game. And I don't know where we're going to start the year in the AP poll, but I think after this game, we probably will end up being like top 12 in the country. Like, worst top 15. I'll answer this first one. At Miami. I mean, might as well be at Florida. I mean, this Miami crowd. What does Miami's schedule look like? Let me check something real quick.
They play Notre Dame week 1.
So we'll learn a lot about Miami week 1. And the offense is going to take a big step back. Who knows how much the defense is going to improve. Did you see the rumor that Ruben Bain was taking a secret visit to Colorado?
No, I did not see that.
I don't know how much is true, but like that's kind of how it has been with a lot of Colorado's players. Or like Jordan Seaton took that visit, and then a week later he ended up committing to Colorado. I don't know how true it is, but
Bane's not in the portal, right?
No, that's the thing.
Yeah.
He's not in the portal. That's why it caught me a bit off guard. I just think we beat Miami. I mean, the defense, I don't know how much better their defense can get in one offseason. The offense is very likely taking a step back. Who their quarterback is going to be, no one really knows. I mean, I doubt it's Emory Williams, but who else could it be? Carson Beck's declared, so he's not entering. Jalen Milroe declared. There is still a little bit of Quinn Ewers smoke. How good is Quinn Ewers, though? Is he going to be a difference maker for this offense? He's going to have worse weapons than he did at Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take the Gators win this one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, I think this Miami team is poised to take, like you said, a tremendous step back on offense. I mean, I don't see any way you're even close to the level of production you had with Cam Ward, who truly is like a sensational player.
Oh, yeah.
And the receivers that they're losing too. Like, this is going to be a significant rebuilding year for Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And like, just truthfully, I don't see how Florida can lose this game if it's going to be anywhere close to the caliber of team that it needs to be for this regime to stick around.
Yep.
And so I'm with you. I do have the Gators winning this game.
I mean, you saw it in the Pop-Tart Bowl. Cam Ward went and that offense dominated Iowa State's defense. Cam Ward put up 35 points in like the first half against them. And then Emory Williams came in, went 2 of 6 or something horrible like that.
Yeah, he's not good.
Yeah, he's not good. That's simple. And they lose like their top 3 receivers. And yeah, it's going to be tough for the Miami offense to regroup.
Yeah.
So I have us at 4-0. You have us at 3-1, heading into a much needed bye week. 2 brutal road games to come back and host Texas.
Yeah.
This is a big game. I mean, this might be the biggest non-Georgia game that Florida's had in the regular season in a long time. I mean, when's
Alabama,
the last time?
21.
Yeah, that's probably it. But like, I feel like there's a lot less hype around Florida than if we're 4-0 than there was going in Florida that game, especially with all the controversy of start AR or Emory. And then they announced AR is going to be out for the game against Alabama. And I mean, Florida put up a good fight and missed a 2-point conversion that would have maybe sent to OT. But I do think this is the biggest game since then, and probably before it. I mean, the biggest game, I think, if we are 4-0, was Auburn 2019. That's what I'm going to say. It's probably the biggest home game since Auburn 2019. We're a top 10 matchup. If we are 4-0, Florida will be a top 10 team. Texas, they play Ohio State at Ohio State week 1. If they lose that game, they still are very likely a top 10 team. They're 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
But how good is Arch Manning really? I mean, Texas might be one of the most talented, if not the most talented teams in college football. I mean, Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, they have some dogs on defense. And they still have a ton of offense, 5-star running backs, 5-star receivers. DeAndre Moore, I think it is 5-star receiver. I mean, outside of Arch, they're 100% just going to reload. But how good is Arch is the question.
Yeah, I mean, that is the question. But I guess my counter to that would maybe be like, how good is Quinn Ewers? And they're still in the college football playoff semifinal. Like,
yeah, that's a good point.
So that's kind of what I'm saying is like I think it's fair to question Arch, but I think there's enough around Arch that I have a hard time believing Arch is the reason they like take a significant step back.
And then I can point to Texas' best win is a 10-point win over Texas A&M. So they haven't really had to beat. I mean, they beat Arizona State.
I'd say Clemson's maybe a better win, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So it's like they also haven't beat anybody really good. I mean, they lost to Gunnar Stockton. They had a lead against Gunnar Stockton and lost that game. A team that Notre Dame just beat by double-digit points.
Yeah.
So, you can say even with Quinn, they've been good, but they haven't had to beat anyone really good. So if Florida is that team that could start 4-0, I mean, I think if that is true, I mean, maybe Texas beats Ohio State on Friday. Mm-hmm. I think that game's on Friday. And then they just prove me wrong. But don't really even know how good Texas is right now. But I do think they do have a lot of talent. And I'm gonna let you make your pick for this one. I'm in Miami first.
Yeah, Billy is yet to beat a team that has this kind of talent discrepancy. And I kind of it's more of a believe it when I see it kind of thing with this.
Yeah.
I don't think that Florida is quite there to beat these teams on most days. I'm not saying like there's no reality where they do, but I think even at home and I'm sure it's going to be an insane environment. I would probably say that I just remain very high on Texas overall, the trajectory as a program. And I think that's a big ask for this Florida team next year. So I do have Texas winning this game.
So, precursor, I think Texas is going to lose to Ohio State week 1. I do think they're going to win this game. I think their defense is going to be really good. Colin Simmons is going to be, I mean, he didn't win defensive freshman of the year. I think it went to, what's his name? Dylan Stewart at USC.
Yeah.
But Colin Simmons is right.
Probably well deserved, but yeah.
I mean, Colin Simmons also was the backup for Texas. And he had double-digit sacks, if I'm not mistaken. And Anthony Hill was probably the best linebacker in the SEC, like true linebacker in the SEC. I just think that Texas defense is going to be too good.
Yeah.
And Arch, we do know he has mobility and he has a talent with the arm. So even if he does make a couple mistakes, that defense might bail him out a bit. And the offense around him can bail him out a bit. So I am going to take Texas. But I wouldn't be shocked if Florida could find a way to win this game at home. I mean, and who knows how good they are this year. I mean, if Texas goes and gets obliterated by Ohio State, I mean, so did Oregon. So it's not like that's a big fault on Texas. I mean, it is, but going into next year, it's not like that's going to be a difference maker in how good they are. But maybe Texas was really overrated this year. I mean, I feel like that could change how we view this game.
Yeah, I mean, potentially. I generally just still remain high on Sarkisian and the talent they have, and I just still question if Florida is at that level because I don't think like as good as Ole Miss was, I don't think they're nearly, they're not nearly at that level in terms of like blue chip ratio.
In the front 7, they probably were.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, like as a whole, top down,
yeah,
like the talent.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I get what you mean there. Then continuing a brutal 4-game stretch, Florida goes to College Station, Kyle Field for the 500th time in this 13-year. Or
it's crazy how many times Florida's played Texas A&M there.
It is.
And I was at them 2 more times at home too.
Well, we talked about it in 2022. That's probably Bailey's biggest road win. So maybe you can just win at College Field. I mean, College Station in Kyle Field against Texas A&M. We saw Texas A&M's defense struggle in the bowl game against USC. Texas A&M loses a lot on its defense. And it was a defense that at the end of the season was getting exposed a good bit.
Yep.
And they're losing both Shamar Stewart's, Nick Gordon. There's another Shamar, I'm pretty sure, on their D-line.
Shamar Turner, right?
Shamar Turner. 2 5-stars and then a 5-star level transfer in Scorton. Will Lee, the best, one of the best corners in the SEC. I think Scooby Williams, also a starting linebacker, former Gator, is also leaving, I think. Jaden Hill announced for the NFL draft as well. They're just losing too many good players to be as good as they were last year. And it was already a defense that probably wasn't as good as you expect it to be. And then offensively under Marcel Reed, because they are rocking with Marcel Reed. They do have Jacob Zeno to be the backup QB, but he doesn't really scare me. Unless like the talent, like they have gotten some good receivers. They got Concepcion from NC State. They got Mario Williams from Tulane.
Did they? Oh, I actually missed that if they did.
Or I think that's who they got. They've gotten a couple really good wide receivers in the portal. Let me double check. Text. So it's like they are trying to give Marcel Reed some weapons. But how good is Marcel Reed? I mean, he did put up 35 on USC. So if I'm gonna discredit the Texas A&M defense, I do have to give some credit to the offense. But I think the Gators win this one. Lagway grew up 30, 45 minutes away from College Station, so this is kind of a home game away from home for him. So he's probably going to have his family there. He's going to probably try to show out. And I do think this is going to be like the big big wins at Texas A&M and at LSU and Miami for me. So like those are big ones. But I think this is really probably going to be the biggest one to this point. And I do think the Gators take home the win. So the wide receivers they've gotten, Concepcion from NC State and Mario Craver from Mississippi State. No, sorry, not Williams.
Oh, okay.
Ike Hudson, the former 5-star at Texas Tech.
Okay. So, like, my thing with A&M, like, I went from my thoughts on this team changed a lot throughout this year. From like, wow, like Mike Elko's cooking quite a bit in year one to like, when you take a step back, they kind of ended up having a pretty Jimbo Fisher-esque year. Like,
and that's a lot of people were saying.
Like, yeah, I mean, they went 8-4, lost their bowl game, finished with the same record as Florida did. So, like, I mean, it's hard to like the trajectory here that much in the short term, I think, because like you said, they lose so much from that front seven that was pretty good. The secondary was kind of an issue down the stretch this year. You know, I don't know how realistically I think it is they're going to get that fixed. And frankly, like you're like, how much do you believe in Marcel Reed? Like not that much. I think a lot of Marcel Reed's success this season came from just being a change of pace from Connor Wegman, you know, bringing a new element to the table.
Using his mobility,
don't think, like, I mean, maybe it's a better fit for like what Colin Klein is. Colin Klein's our OC, right? Yeah, like a better fit for what he's trying to do. I want to make sure he was still there. I was like, am I not making sure I'm not forgetting something? But yeah, like I think Marcel Reed's a better fit than Wigman was for what they're trying to do there. But nothing Marcel Reed ever did as a passer really looked particularly advanced to me, or like anything that is going to be like all SEC caliber. I don't see this team taking a step forward next year. If anything, I think they probably take a step back. And so that's why, like, even on the road, I have Florida responding from a couple tough losses and getting a big win on the road here.
Yep. I mean, we both got it there. This A&M team, like, even the good players they had on defense leave. Like, they do have a corner from Washington, Jordan Shaw, transferring defensive linemen from Iowa State, Tyler Onyedem. But, like, I mean, they also bring in TJ Sears. We saw how Florida did against former Gators. I mean, they shut down Trevor Etienne a lot in that Georgia game. And once Lagway got hurt, there's really no chance for winning that. So maybe we would have won that game. We've already talked about that enough. We shut down Ole Miss and Princely. And then the FSU game with Richie Leonard. We destroyed FSU. Leonard didn't play in that game, but still. We saw how teams with former Gator starters, specifically, Florida was able to beat them. Man, that's a brutal 4-game stretch. I mean, even if Miami isn't as good, it's still in Miami, like, and it's still a Power 5, Power 4 conference team. It's like that being your biggest rest before that, after that Texas A&M game. Whew, that's brutal. But then we do get a big rest against Mississippi State. I don't think Mississippi State's gonna be any better. They're running it back with Blake Shapen, right? Blake Shapen.
Oh yeah,
he's coming back. They also brought in Luke Kromenhoek. Shout out FSU. He's gonna be the backup unless Shapen gets hurt again. Mississippi State just hasn't added talent. I don't think. I mean, even the guys that they had were good. Kevin Coleman's transferred to Missouri. Mario Craver is transferring to Texas A&M, as we just said. I think the running back also transferred. I mean, Blake Shapen's a good QB, but if you don't have the talent around him and you're facing a Florida defense that has a couple possible first-round draft picks and other highly rated players, the offense probably won't be able to do anything. Don't really see the defense either taking a big step. Like, let me check their transfer portal. I don't think it's been that impressive either.
No, it hasn't.
So I'm going to take the Gators, and I'm going to take the Gators big.
Yeah. I mean, I disagree in the sense, like, about them not being better in the sense that, like, I don't think they're going to be over in the SEC again. But, I I like this still looks like a team to me that's going to be uphill battle to bowl eligibility here. I mean, kind of just goes back to like what I said about Miami, but even more so. Like, if you're even going to sniff a playoff spot this year, you're not going to, let this game even be close at home against a team that you're just vastly more talented than. And in the SEC, it's hard. There are not many teams that Florida can just say we are vastly more talented than this team, but this is one of them. So that needs to show out in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at their transfer class, and it's mostly just random players from lower level schools that maybe could do something. Like outside of Luke Kromenhoek, their other highest rated transfer is the running back from South Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got Malik Silva from Texas A&M, who was a highly rated recruit. So it's not even like they're getting a lot of former highly rated recruits that have a ton of potential. It's kind of just like some like low 4-star level guys, like maybe some mid 4-star level guys, and then just lower level guys who couldn't get into bigger SEC teams, so they still went to Mississippi State. I mean, let me check Mississippi State's schedule real quick, because you don't think they're going to go over. I mean, they aren't beating Tennessee. They're not winning at A&M. We picked them to lose to Florida. They're not winning they're not winning against Texas. Maybe they beat Arkansas, but they still have Taylor Green. I think Arkansas wins that pretty easily. They're not beating Georgia. Probably not beating Missouri.
I could see an upset there or A&M.
Maybe.
I could see an upset, to be honest with you.
I mean, and then they do host Ole Miss, so that's a rivalry game, and so I still think Ole Miss is going to be a lot more talented, especially offensively. Than Mississippi State. I just don't see the win for them. So
let me just put it this way then. I don't think they're going to lose to a Toledo caliber team again next year. How about that?
Like, let me double check their. They're not going to lose at Southern Miss, coming off a 1-11 season with Charles Huff as their new coach. They play Arizona State week 2. That's not a Toledo level team.
No.
They host Northern Illinois.
I don't see it. I don't see it this time, but we'll see.
I'm not going to say Northern Illinois is going to win that game. They did upset Notre Dame this year.
They didn't even have a particularly good season, is the funniest part.
No, they went
they were a very middling MAC team. Yeah.
I'm not turning this into a MAC football show.
Yeah.
But you see, so Baylor got Daquan Finn from Toledo to transfer in for this last season. He got beaten out by Sawyer Robinson, who's a really good QB, it looks like, for Baylor. And then Finn re-entered the transfer portal. He's going back to the MAC, return of the MAC, but to Miami of Ohio. That's just really weird, right? Like, you transfer up, and Toledo's like the top of the MAC. Like, they don't win it as much as they should. Honestly, Jason Candle, the coach for Toledo, probably underachieves like every year. But I mean, we don't need to make this into a MAC talk show. Sorry. Okay. But let's get into Florida's next game, which we have a bye week, as we always do. Are we not guaranteed to play Georgia at 3:30 this year or next year, whatever it is? You want to say?
As far as I know, that game is 3:30 in perpetuity. I mean, I guess I don't think, pretty sure logistically they'll never make that a night game in Jacksonville, just because it would be a nightmare. Like, just frankly, it would be a disaster. Okay. So I assume that's just hasn't been like officially like updated in there yet.
Because I've always remembered, like, even years before the game's been announced for 3:30. But what I'm looking at, the schedule I'm looking at, has it at TBA.
Yeah, same with the one. We might be looking at the same thing, but
FB schedule, yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna let you pick it first.
Yeah, Georgia and Jacksonville. A lot of people are gonna say, like, look at what very likely, or at least very possibly, could have happened if Flacco didn't get hurt, and I think that's a fair point. I have a lot of questions. I think it's fair, maybe a little bit at least, to start questioning Kirby in the sense that this offense just isn't where it needs to be. The passing game has kind of fallen behind. It kind of looked like for moments with Carson Beck, especially last year, that they were kind of getting where they needed to be. Oh boy. Yeah. I mean, when you're not good enough to get, to go in and take the handoff over like Carson Beck, who like tore his UCL, that's pretty telling.
Yeah. Yeah, I had the news of Jaden Rashada entering the transfer portal earlier today.
Yeah.
Not really a shocker, but so Jaden Rashada won't be the starting QB for this game.
Probably Gunnar Stockton. Probably assuming they're rolling with Gunnar Stockton next year.
Like, who else could it be? Like,
yeah,
that's the thing. Like,
I don't think Stockton looked great. Like, I'm not like all in on Gunnar Stockton, but I don't see any other option for them right now. So
I won't say he was terrible. Like, Georgia's receivers dropped some terrible passes.
Oh, yeah, Georgia. Well, that's kind of what I was getting to. Like, it's just crazy that Georgia's like not been able to find the receivers, and maybe they've got it now in Zachariah Branch. I mean, we'll see.
Zachariah Branch is just another Arian Smith and Dylan Bell. Like, you give him the ball, he can make the plays. But like, they don't really have a receiver, and they missed out on Dane Key. I think. I think he went to Nebraska, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm almost 100% sure you're right.
So it's like, I don't know if they fixed the receiver problem. Like, Branch is better than Smith, or probably better than Smith or Bell was. But I mean, like, I'm looking at their transfer class. Why is that? Oh, that's last year. Whoops. 25. So the Branch brothers committed to them earlier. Outgoing. Everyone else is outgoing. Those are the only two transfers they've gotten.
Yeah, Kirby has not been a big like portal guy. He really hasn't. Like, not nearly as much as even like Saban was.
Except the fact that he took 11 last year. And two of them were wide receivers who probably ended up costing them beating Notre Dame, and Thomas and Colby Young, who didn't play. Even Dominic Levet, he was really good at Missouri, went to Georgia and just busted. I mean,
and then obviously they didn't have Thomas because of off the field stuff. Got dismissed from the team before the season started. So
I'm gonna take the Gators here. I think we should have beaten. I think we should have beaten this past season. Mm-hmm. I think Lagway looking a lot for revenge here. And I think this defense is good enough to shut down Georgia's offense. I don't know what Georgia's defense. I mean, the Georgia's defense has a ton of talent, so it's going to be good. How good is it? Is it going to be good enough? Is Lagway going to be good enough to where no matter how good the defense is, that he's going to be guaranteed to put up 24 plus points? And I don't think Georgia's offense is going to be good enough to guarantee to put up 20 plus points against our defense at this point. So I'm going to take the Gators and the fact that it's a revenge. And I just don't think their offense is going to be it.
Yeah, I mean, in spite of everything I said, because I do think there's a decent chance Georgia is once again sort of a step below some of the best teams in the country this next year. It's very similar to the Texas game for me, where Florida's a lot less talented than this team, and I don't know if that gap has been bridged enough. I don't trust it. Kirby's got Florida's number. I mean, they've only lost once to only lost once to the Gators since Kirby really got it rolling. So I do have Georgia winning this game again.
I honestly don't think it is. I mean, the offense isn't. I don't see it on offense. I mean, their offensive line was really not that good. I mean, it should have been way better with the talent. They're probably going to hire new coaches and stuff, and it probably will be better. I mean, will it? Like, it probably will, right? The offensive line?
Georgia's, you mean? Or
yeah,
Florida?
Georgia's.
I mean, it's hard to imagine it won't be.
But it's like they don't have any transfers there yet. And it's obviously the portal's not done because Florida's still looking at portal players, and I'm still giving us some credit for it. I just don't know who Georgia's going to get on the offensive line. I mean, and defensively, one big thing about Texas, their young players are like there. Like Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons, those two guys specifically, they're already two of the best players in the SEC. Who on Georgia's defense that you know for sure is returning? Like they're losing both their safeties. We already talked about that. I assume Munden's going to the NFL. I mean, he's a pretty good linebacker. I mean, they have the talent, obviously. I mean, they're bringing in 5 stars every single year. But do they have those proven guys on the defense like Texas does?
Maybe not. I mean, maybe not. I just I don't. I mean, I guess my other thing is I don't know if I'm sold on Florida being that team that's going to guaranteed to put up 24, like you said. Like you said, you were hoping they'd be like. I still think Billy's offense has a lot of issues, and as of now, I'm assuming there's not going to be a new play caller. I don't think there's any reason to assume that's the case. I mean, there's some rumors to that effect, but nothing substantial.
We'll see what happens. That's where it is.
Yeah.
So, are you taking Georgia?
Yeah, I am taking Georgia. I have Florida taking a third loss here to fall to 4-3.
4-3. I was taking a win to get to 6-1. Which, if we're 6-1 at this point, start booking your playoff tickets. No, I mean, no, you can't do that. Obviously, you still got some tough games. Probably not the next one though. At Kentucky.
Yeah.
It's at Kroger Field. It's later in the season than we usually play them, so it kind of changes things up a bit. But on the field, I mean, we saw what freshman Lagway did to them. Saw what freshman Ball did to them. Saw what our defense did to them. Gators by a ton.
Yeah, I mean, Kentucky kind of had the Gators number for a while, kind of at the tail end of the Mullen and beginning of Napier. I mean, I think this year you saw them get over that. I don't like the way that Kentucky's trending as a program at all. I'm honestly pretty surprised that it seems as though, at least as of now, that they're running things back with Mark Stoops again. So I don't like where they're at. Expensive. Yeah, I get. Yeah, I mean, I almost thought he might like try to get another job somewhere else.
That's fair.
But I mean, I don't see it happening here, even on the road. I think Florida's going to be fine in this game.
I mean, and you look at, you saw Brock Vandergriff announced his retirement. So, who is Kentucky going to be rocking with that QB? Is it going to be not Bo Prabila? Oh, they got transfer. That's right. They got Zach Calzada.
Is that who they got? Okay, I knew they got a transfer. I couldn't remember who it was. Okay.
I mean,
is he the latest Cam Ward? Is he the next Cam Ward? Had crazy numbers at Incarnate Word this year. Many are saying.
Or is he the next Max Johnson? That's from former A&M. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, it's not like they've added crazy talent. They lose their 2 stud wide receivers in Barian Brown and Dane Key. Gators by 1 million. 7-1.
Yeah, I agree. I have the Gators getting back on track there, so to get to 5-3.
Man, it's crazy how fast this Kentucky program is going to tumble.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe they turn around. Like, even the recruiting class, like, they've had a lot better recruiting classes under Stoops.
Mm-hmm.
And then, what I think is probably like the biggest trap game of the season, at Tennessee. At Ole Miss.
You was going to say.
Saturday, November 15th, Vaught Hemingway Stadium. I think even I'm underlooking Ole Miss here because they lose 20 starters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, although I do think Austin Simmons is going to be pretty good, I assume. They did take a transfer QB, I think. Or they had one visit. Let me double check that, but...
Because they had Walker Howard leave. I'm not sure they took anyone in.
They might not. I think it was just a visit.
Yeah, they hosted Mikey Keene.
Oh, that's right, from Fresno.
Yeah.
Whoops. But I don't want to pick the Gators to go 11-1. I'm gonna say they slip up here.
Wow. Okay.
I'm gonna say something happens in this game. Maybe Lagway gets a little hurt. Lane Kiffin just draws up the perfect game to get revenge for knocking us out of the knocking them out of the playoffs. I don't want to, but I need to. So I'm gonna pick Ole Miss to win this game at Vaught Hemingway. I have us winning a lot of other road games this year, so it's not like I don't know. I'm gonna pick us to lose, and I don't really want to expand on it. So I don't know how we lose, but it's college football. Like I pick a lot of games based on like, oh, okay, well, college football is kind of wild. Like this is that opportunity where they're gonna lose. So this is the one for Florida, where Lane Kiffin gets revenge.
Okay, well, I'm just glad that for once I'm not the negative one. No, like I mean, I think that Ole Miss like probably is a spot where you're underlooking them, especially if like you have like we are 7-1 at this point. I think that's easily a game that you could overlook. I think that I think Jackson Dart was really underrated for how good he was for them. Even though he wasn't in the game against Florida, but I mean, his production, like I think it's gonna be hard to replace. I think it's gonna be hard to replace the guys that are losing in their front seven. Like, yeah, Lane's gonna be motivated. Yeah, it's gonna be a revenge game. I'm sure they're gonna have a lot of just a lot of bells and whistles ready to go for that game. But I do have Florida winning this game.
Yeah. Everything tells you Florida probably should win this game based on what we've both predicted. But yeah, if Florida does win this game, like if Florida, like based on how I'm picking things, and Florida's gonna be what 9-1 at that point if we beat Ole Miss, then I mean you have to probably fully say Billy's turned it around, but something's gonna happen. And we're just gonna end up losing that game. I don't know. I just have to pick a second loss because I don't think we're gonna go 11-1. I mean, if we could go 11-1 and DJ Lagway wins the Heisman. I mean, that is a possibility. Lagway is top 5 in Heisman odds. I mean, it's not impossible.
I'll be honest, that's a little bit surprising to me. Not really because of Lagway. Yeah, not really because of Lagway. Because I truly like. I don't know if Billy's offense is ever going to like let him get those kind of numbers.
Well, like, I don't think Lagway wins it based on numbers. I think he wins it based on having the best resume in the country and making those winning plays against the likes of Georgia, Texas A&M, LSU, Tennessee.
But he's not going to win it if it's 24 passing touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Like that's just not going to do it. You won't win the Heisman. But I don't know if you can do. I don't know if you can do more than that in this Billy offense. I mean, maybe. I hope he can. This is more about the play calling than it is about Lagway, to be honest with you. But I don't know. That's why I'm a little surprised how bullish people have been on like his chances to do like that.
Let me double checking something real quick. Okay. What? Okay. Never mind. How many rush yards did it have? Okay. I mean, Anthony Richardson was a very, very, very undeveloped QB here at Florida. 2,500 passing yards, 600 rushing yards. If this offense is going to be more talented around Lagway. Lagway is probably a way better developed passer than AR was. So, I mean, if you're talking about Lagway getting to like 3,500 and like 600-700 rushing yards with like good touchdowns.
I don't think Lagway's going to produce in the ground game the way that AR did, though.
Yeah, probably not like 600, maybe like 500.
Yeah.
But again, I think Lagway winning the Heisman is being efficient, like not perfect like Graham Mertz, but like not costly, but making those big Heisman moment plays. Like we saw, he got the touchdown drives to beat Ole Miss, got the touchdown drive to beat LSU. He led that touchdown drive to tie it with Tennessee. It's going to be Lagway having the big games to where it's like, okay, maybe he doesn't have the numbers that Sawyer Robinson does at Baylor, but he has the toughest schedule in the country, and he's making the game-winning plays and not playing bad outside of that either.
But who was the last QB to win the Heisman, like under those circumstances?
I mean, what other QBs have been in those circumstances?
I guess that's my point. Is that you're not you have to have crazy stats to win the Heisman? Is my point. Like, I don't think you can win it. Like, even if Lagway's incredible, if he's throwing for under 30 touchdowns,
actually,
I don't think he's gonna get it. Like,
under 30, I think he would probably. What did Lagway have this year? 12?
like 12. Yeah, I think 12.
And no rushing?
I don't think so. I don't think he had any
I'm
rushing
double.
touchdowns. I can't remember a DJ Lagway rushing touchdown off the top of my head.
Okay, let me double check one last thing. Okay, 32, like 3,300 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Those don't really scream Heisman numbers to you, do they? 33.
I mean, depends what year we're talking about, but I mean, that's not bad. I mean, those are
Oh
pretty.
wait, no, that's sorry. Those are. Oh, that's the wrong one. Never mind. Okay, wait. How did Bryce Young have such a big fall off after your with his first season starting for Bama? Bryce Young threw no way he threw 4,800 yards and 47 touchdowns.
Yeah, but dude, Bryce Young was really good that year.
He also had Jamison Williams and who was the other elite receiver? John Mechie.
Yeah, Mechie.
Okay, never mind. I was thinking. I don't believe that. Wait, what? 2021. I need to look at their game. I mean, receiving. Oh my God, Jamison Williams. Okay, yeah, Jamison Williams went for 1,500 yards alone, and John Mechie 1,100 yards.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I did not realize they did all that. But
yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of my point. Is like I think Lagway could have like the best possible season in Billy's system, and I don't think he's throwing for 4,800 yards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I also think it's the lack of like returning guys in the early Heisman odds, because Arch Manning I think is their current favorite, and like Arch hasn't really proven anything as a passer. And then like the next guys you're looking at like Jeremiah Smith, the receivers. It's really difficult for a receiver to win it. Like if you're looking at if Lagway leads us to the playoffs, and you're looking at him for the Heisman or Jeremiah Smith, you might go with DJ Lagway. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So like early odds, that's probably where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also if Florida was never mind. Let's get into the next games. We went on a little side tangent there. So I have us at 8-2. You have us at 7-3, right?
Yeah, correct.
Florida hosts Tennessee. We talked about it earlier. 2003 was the last time Tennessee beat Florida in the swamp. Nico, I'm going to turn the ball over, is not winning in the swamp. Give me the Gators. I don't care that we just lost to Ole Miss. Give me the Gators by 35 points.
Wow.
Maybe not.
I don't know. I don't know about that, but I mean, I do agree with the pick. I think, I mean, first of all, there's just some psychology working on Florida's side here. I think Tennessee just does not seem to play well, even when they're, should be the better team on paper. They've lost a few of those in the swamp, most recently 2 years ago. So, and I don't love the way they're trending. Yeah, there you go, George.
That's where I want to take us.
No, I think Tennessee is set to lose some guys, like say James Pierce from the defense. And like, honestly, a defense that was a little bit underwhelming at times, I thought this year, like with the talent they had.
Yeah. That front seven should have been way better.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, and then they, lost Squirrel White in the portal, right?
I mean, he went to FSU.
Not a huge loss, but I'm just saying, like, I don't really see the reason to think they continue to take steps forward. I don't really believe in Nico. And I think this is a win for Florida.
Yeah, I do. I mean, so now I have us at 9-2, and you have us at 8-3. Going into the last week of the what would be the season, Saturday, November 29th in Gainesville, Florida. FSU rolls to town with maybe Thomas Castellanos. Gators.
Yeah. I don't think FSU is going 2-10 next year. I think they're probably going to be more in like the 7-5-ish kind of range. And it's the ACC.
I was looking at it. Yeah. Yeah. I think I had him like max 6-6. I think I had him at 5-7.
Okay. I mean, I could see that too. Point being, they're not going to be as like abysmally like just futile.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as they were like. But they're not going to be able to win this game, especially in the swamp. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, that's I think we're going to take a step forward. I mean, obviously, based on our picks, FSU probably will take a little step forward, but I think ours is going to be greater than what, like, even from where we currently are at, ours is probably still going to be a greater leap than what I think FSU's will be. But
Mhm.
FSU was 2-10, but like they weren't as bad as a 2-10 team usually is.
Mhm.
Like a lot of their big problems came from just bad turnovers. Like they lost to Duke, who was a 9-4, 9-3 team. That they lost to Duke in that game because they gave up 2 defensive touchdowns. They threw
Mhm.
2 pick sixes and had like 3 other turnovers in that game where they lose by 1 score. Like that's a game that now they're looking at a win over a 9-win team. I mean, then they lost close games to Georgia Tech that almost beat Georgia. I mean, 2-score game against Boston College. Boston College had that game dominated, but like 2-score game is legit a touchdown with a minute to go, an onside kick, and it's a tied game. I mean, they got dominated in some games by like North Carolina and Notre Dame and Florida, but they weren't like that normal 2-10 team.
Yeah.
I still think Mike Norvell isn't a good enough of a coach. Like I think a lot of Norvell's flaws were made up for by a lot of elite defensive talent and
Mhm.
Jordan Travis just saying Johnny Wilson or Keon Coleman's down there somewhere. I'm gonna throw it.
Yeah.
And they don't have those guys. Like they got Deuce Robinson, but that's an unproven tight end who's I think playing receiver for him. So I just don't think it's gonna go as well in Gators by a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. No disagreement. I think they'll be fine in that game.
Yep. So I have us at 10-2. You have us at 9-3. I really think the overall way to look at this schedule is the Gators really have a huge opportunity to make a run in maybe a less proven year in college football. I mean, you look at who are the top teams going to be. I mean, Texas has a new starting QB.
Mhm.
Georgia, that offense, we don't really know. And defense, we don't really. I mean, we know it's going to be a good defense, but we don't know if it's going to be elite like they have been in other years. Oregon, they lose a lot of their veterans, like starting QB. Ohio State loses their QB, but returns a lot around them. And then we look at the rest of the schedule: Tennessee, Texas A&M, LSU, games that we can maybe even favored in some of those to win. So it's really an opportunity for Billy in a season that it might be underwhelming at the elite level. I don't know. I mean, it's way too early to say that. It's like, who are those elite teams going to be? And like, I think I saw Texas in a preseason poll #1, and they're starting a new QB. So who knows how that's going to be? I
Yeah.
mean, like most years in college football, until like really maybe even this one, there's been those dominant teams that I wouldn't pick Florida to beat. Like I wouldn't pick Florida to beat Georgia from 2-3 years ago. I wouldn't pick Florida to beat Ohio State probably from 2-3 years ago.
Mhm.
Or I mean, a lot of college football is down. Now, whether that's a short-term thing that's just happening, or whether it's the transfer portal and NIL making that talent so much more dispersed that it really shortens the gap, I just think Billy has a really big opportunity here to not just prove that he's a good coach, but take Florida very far and maybe start raising us to the program that those Georgias and Bamas were, like bringing like a top 5 class, take us to the playoff. Like it's really high expectations and goals. So it's not like that's guaranteed or even will happen. But the opportunity to do it is better this year than it is most years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I think as we're looking at the schedule, there's no game that just looks like impossible for Florida to win. I think this is the year you have to be like, if you want, like you said, if you want to be, stepping into that kind of Georgia level program, like one that's routinely competing for the college football playoff. This is the year you have to do that. It's year 2 of Lagway. Like he's got a full offseason under his belt as the definitive starter. You finally have your guys on both sides of the ball, mostly guys you recruited that are going to be contributing for this team, like really only a handful of transfers, or at least only a handful of new transfers.
Nah.
I would probably be a little surprised, I'll
Yeah,
be
like
honest. But
there's gonna be 3 or 4 top 10 matchups, and
yeah,
only team to win that many games is like 2019 LSU, and that's one of the best teams of all time.
yeah. I just I still worry because I'm not positive that we've done the things that we need to do to avoid, slipping up against some of these teams the way we kind of have in the past. But I mean, the pieces are there. Like, you can see the vision. You have the quarterback. You have the pieces around him. You have at least promising guys on defense,
Mhm.
and some progress made down the stretch this year. So I think going into 2025, like, that's the year that if you're going to take that leap and prove like, hey, we're one of these preeminent programs in the SEC, we're going to be a perennial CFP contender. That's when it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think if Billy can't win at least like 9 games this year, then I don't think he ever will be that coach that can win us a championship.
Totally agree.
Because you're going to have good enough of a roster to. I mean, we've said a couple of like we could win any. I wouldn't be surprised if we won any game on a roster. I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised if we beat Texas. I wouldn't be surprised if we beat Georgia, Tennessee, A&M. I wouldn't be surprised if we won any of those games individually, which is probably the first time I'm saying this since like 2020. Like legit, like non-bias. And like, oh, we can beat Georgia. That's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. Or we could. I mean, we almost did beat Bama in that 21 season, but still, it's really the first season where we're probably going to go into the season ranked for the first time since 2021. I think the hype is going to be there. The fans probably are going to show out. And I really just hope Billy does find a way to put it together.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like, no
excuses. That's
anymore.
The biggest stretch that's been said in this video.
Yeah, if Cormani plays enough to have 5 interceptions, I feel like something's gone terribly wrong.
Or he's just developed. Will Harris is that dude. I'll save you the time. Billy is not that guy. I mean, was Billy not that guy against Ole Miss or LSU? I mean,
well, the season was already over going into those games is kind of the counter argument to that. Like, I mean, it was, in the sense that you weren't competing for anything at that point.
Oh, I mean, I guess that's fair, in those.
Like, the losses cost you the opportunity for those games to mean anything is kind of what I guess I would say. Like, I'm still extremely skeptical.
A lot for Ole Miss.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And LSU because they were still available live.
I just think, I think there's definitely, I can see this getting right. I just remain very skeptical because I think it's just going to take a lot. I mean, it's going to take getting to the playoff, basically, for this to be right. And this is just a team we've seen lose some games it shouldn't at times under Billy. So,
yeah, I also wouldn't be surprised if Billy just fails and we end up going 5-7 this season. Things just fall off the rails. Because I'm not 100% sold on Billy. Mm-hmm. I do think it will be fine. I think we will be good. But I wouldn't be surprised if some old things that were happening the beginning of this season and the past 2 seasons before that come back and it just goes off the rails and recruiting doesn't improve or anything like that happens. But I do think it is, and it just feels like there's that different energy, that DJ Lagway effect is happening. What other programs can you really compare it to? I mean, that DJ Lagway effect is something only he has, feels like. So it's the team just won. They just won those games at the end of the season. Yeah. There's just something to it that I don't know. It's just Lagway just doesn't lose,
He hasn't yet, at least in the game he's finished.